Welcome to a special episode of 716 Sports Entertainment, where today we are going to do AFC Power Rankings. The NFL Draft is officially over, and we're going to take you guys through where we feel the AFC is headed. And probably shortly after this, we will do the NFC as well, but we're going to rank all 16 teams in the AFC. And the thing we're going to do here is we have to come to an agreement. So we're going to argue and argue and argue until we come to an agreement. So let's hope we get there, and let's hope we all can come to a consensus number one here. But with that said, I'm Mike with 716 Sports Entertainment, joined by Mr. T. Reese and Mr. Sean O'Neill. And guys, as always, please like and subscribe. And if you like this NFL content, we did a whole series of videos on the NFL draft, and we also have all of our wrestling content as well over on the YouTube page. So please hit that subscribe button and help us get to 100 subscribers. We really appreciate it. So, guys, let's start from the bottom. So at the very bottom of my list, I am going to go with the Cleveland Browns at number 16. And that's where I am with them, the worst team in the AFC this year. I am putting them there, and I'm only putting them one team ahead of them. And you'll know what that team is obviously in a minute. I just think that because this one team got themselves a brand new quarterback, I think that this one team might be slightly better than them. But given the fact that Cleveland right now has four people attempting to start for quarterback, a Myles Garrett who isn't even sure that he wants to be there, and it seems like they're stockpiling picks for the future. And they just moved off of Deshaun Watson, and they were a dumpster fire last year. And we don't know what's going to happen with the running back situation because what's his face? Coming back, Chubb coming back from an ACL. I mean, that was a disgusting injury that he had, and then you never recover from that. So that's where I'm going with 16. So what do you think?
Can I ask a question real quick? Did Watson sign somewhere, or did they trade him, or did they just straight up cut him?
Be just straight up.
No, he reworked his contract. I think
So
it's a
He's still
so
there,
he's
but
still under contract with them.
yeah, because he can't play. He's injured.
yeah, they're gonna get rid of him eventually.
Yep.
I mean, that whole amount of money that they owe him is a dumpster fire. But I made a list of my own earlier, and the same. I had the Browns at 16 as well, and my reasoning was literally Browns gonna Brown.
Hmm. 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 Hmm.
Terrence gonna make this difficult.
So what if I were to tell you there is a team that's worse than the Browns? Like
I
if
would say
these,
I don't believe you.
There is a you're right, there is a team that's worse than the Browns, but they're in the NFC.
I'm talking about the AFC. And
I want to hear your argument then.
all right.
Yeah.
So if these two teams played each other, I would probably take the Browns. And that's the Titans.
Nope.
See, I disagree.
Titans.
Titans are in bad shape right now. I'm talking bad. I mean, they have lost a lot of depth on that team. They got a new coaching staff, and their quarterback situation really isn't even settled.
So the one thing I'm going to say to that is the Titans did just use the number one overall pick on Cam Ward. So that's the only thing I'm using to give them the edge over Cleveland is that at least their quarterback situation, whoever the hell starts in Cleveland, we have no idea. I think Cam Ward is better than all four of the people in Cleveland right now. So I give Tennessee the edge there because Tennessee was literally going to be my number 15.
So you think Cam Ward is going to beat out all those quarterbacks?
Absolutely.
Then why would they bring them all in?
No. That's Cleveland. Cleveland has four quarterbacks.
Right. So why would they
Cam Ward is Tennessee.
Yeah.
I know, but think about it. Why would Cleveland bring all these quarterbacks in?
Because they don't have a good quarterback.
They don't have a good quarterback.
And you're going to go with the situation of possibly having a mediocre to average quarterback to a rookie quarterback in his first
I'd
year.
rather take the rookie.
I also rather go with the rookie.
And also, in addition to rather preferring to take the rookie, I also think that Tennessee is actually committed to rebuilding. The Browns are just doing their everyday Browns BS of just they sign the people and they just are trash. Like it doesn't matter who's ever on the Browns. They have one good year every decade.
Plus, with that Deshaun Watson contract, it really hinders them from like bringing any significant talent on board as well, right? So Tennessee's got a lot of money available with which to get more players in, and I want to go with the unknown because we have no idea what we're going to get out of Ward, and he was the first overall pick in the draft. So I think just with that, I think he is. I just put him ahead of Cleveland. I mean, we can flip flop them if you really think that Tennessee is going to be worse than Cleveland. I don't see it.
So the other thing that I hold against the Browns too.
Do me one favor. On Tennessee, name 4 players.
Uh,
Will Levis,
Will Levis.
He's not even.
Cam Ward.
That doesn't count. I'm talking about without Cam Ward, name 4 players on Tennessee's roster.
Brian Tannehill.
Honestly,
Derrick Henry.
Now do me a favor. Now listen, do me a favor. Name 4 players on Cleveland.
Okay, I can name 2. Deshaun Watson and Myles Garrett.
No, stop it.
isn't
That's all I can.
wait, no, but we're forgetting about what's his face, who was real good last year in fantasy.
Chubb.
The guy from the who came from the Cowboys.
Njoku.
No, Pollard. Pollard is there, right?
Pollard. And
Tennessee.
And who was that other running back who was awesome when Pollard went down? Taji Spears.
Yes.
He was real good too.
I want to interject something real quick too. Is even if you guys want,
that's my point. That's exactly my point.
I'd still rather go with the team.
Cleveland is a better team than Tennessee.
I'd still rather commit to the team that's actually committed to the rebuild, has the #1 overall pick. And honestly, when I made my list, Tennessee wasn't even in the bottom 2. I had another team there that I think is just as bad as those 2.
Well, my understanding, the discussion was power rankings, not who has the best front office. We're going by teams.
All right. You know what?
And their additions they brought to the team.
All right. You know what? I will take that. I will flip my vote, and Reese is right. If you want to straight go that way, then I will put Tennessee at 16, and I will put Cleveland at 15.
You can put Tennessee at 16 with an asterisk next to it.
The defense rest.
Okay.
Yeah, you're BS.
All right, so we have 15 and 16 then, Cleveland and Tennessee. 14, I have the Jets.
See, I had the Jets at 15, just because it's the Jets.
I think the Jets are a dumpster fire, and it's very clear that they're in like a full reset right now, right? Like we have no idea what's going to go on with the coaching situation there. We have no idea how any of their draft picks are going to pick out. We have no idea what their quarterback situation is going to look like. I mean, who knows what Justin Fields we're going to get, right? I think the Jets are going to be Cleveland and Tennessee can still win some games. I don't think the Jets can win games. I could have very easily put the Jets at the very bottom of the AFC. I really could have. I think the Jets are awful.
So Aaron Rodgers straight up boned the Jets by going there. And any progress that they had started to make in any sort of rebuilding and heading in the right direction in the AFC East just absolutely got demolished when Aaron Rodgers went there, between his ego and everything. So him leaving is going to be good for them, but being replaced by Justin Fields is just Fields hasn't done enough to show me that he's going to be able to stand out there. And the Jets just aren't a good team overall. They occasionally have a decent defense, but then a brand new coach again. It's just, I think the Jets front office is part of their problem that makes them as bad as they are.
Yeah. What do you think, Reese?
Well, they are pretty bad. I mean, they don't have anything going for them right now. And pretty much this draft, it seemed like the Bills kept jumping in front of them every time. Didn't it seem like that? Like every time the Jets were right behind them. So I'm wondering if the Bills knew what the Jets needed, and we needed the same thing. They decided to wait until their spot and make the leap. But I can't argue that. Jets are. Very well. I wouldn't surprise me by the end of the season. The Jets were at the bottom, because that's how bad their team is right now.
Yeah, I guess theoretically they could still come out and surprise us, and Justin Fields could have a renaissance year. but I don't see that happening. I think the Jets deserve their place at number 14 there.
Okay. So we're in agreement then?
Yep.
All right. This one, I don't know how you guys are going to feel about this, but I'm very curious. So at number 13, and this is mostly all because of their quarterback situation or lack thereof, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh, I
Mm,
don't know that I agree with that. I mean, I would have put the Colts there just
mm,
because I think the Colts with Anthony Richardson, but we'll get to them later if we disagree. Um, I don't know. Pittsburgh generally fields a good enough defense that they can stay in these games, and
TJ
I mean
Watt is
that
one
helped.
year older. I
Yeah, but that's what allowed them to do what they did last year is they stayed in games with their defense.
And if they bring in Aaron Rodgers, like everyone thinks that they're going to,
Oh God,
Aaron Rodgers
if
is
they
41 years old and he looks like a shell of himself.
if they bring in Aaron Rodgers, yeah, that's 100%.
So that's my logic for the Pittsburgh at 13, but
well,
feel free.
I'll give you on the floor here.
What's up?
I give you the floor.
Uh,
I I don't know. I think, like I said, I think that Pittsburgh their defense gives them at least a little bit of more credit. However, if Aaron Rodgers ends up going there, I think that automatically sinks them lower simply because he's a detriment to to any team that he joins nowadays between
Mm.
his age and his decision making. And part of me wonders is if this is we're finally reaching the end of Mike Tomlin's tenure there.
I can't argue it. I mean, well, okay, I can. I think it's
I can't argue it. No, I can.
well. I don't. I can't take someone that made the playoffs last year and just assume that all of a sudden they're going to be a bad team this year. We did it. We did it each
Yeah.
year. The last couple of seasons, we've all said that they sneak into the playoffs every year. They had a 10-7 record, so they're above 500. It's possible again they can make it again this year. I mean, their division isn't that powerful right now.
They got so lucky and they so overperformed in situations. They won like 3 games by scoring no touchdowns.
Yeah. That Baltimore game that they didn't score a touchdown.
Okay, then we say the same thing about Kansas City then.
No, I mean I give Kansas City a bit higher, but yeah,
Yeah,
no.
but they lucked all the way into the playoffs. We all knew that, so it's no different. It's
Yeah,
still
but
playoffs. I got to give them more respect than that.
I mean
but
Patrick
the
Mahomes is
equivalent
way
of a
better
one
than
loss.
anything that the Steelers are going to throw out there.
Yeah, but they were just as lucky as them.
So who would you put at 13 instead of Pittsburgh?
Who would I put at 13? In my opinion, I would probably put the Jaguars.
Oh,
No,
really?
no,
Yep.
I have them higher.
no,
Yep.
not with bringing in Travis Hunter and not with bringing in Brian Thomas Jr. Mm-mm.
You guys are putting way too much in rookie quarterbacks. I don't care if they're drafted number one overall. We've
No,
seen
no,
it a million times.
Trevor Lawrence is still there,
Yeah.
but but I think with them bringing in Brian Thomas Jr. and then that Travis Hunter,
Cornerback.
I think that they're going to be better. I think that they're at least going to be better than Pittsburgh and maybe 2 other teams that I have behind them.
You're
I have
putting
I have Jacksonville.
credit. Dude, listen to me. Last year they were 4-13.
Do you think that
4-13.
so you think if Jacksonville and Pittsburgh played 10 times, Pittsburgh would win more games than Jacksonville would?
Yes.
I do not. I think you're way
No.
off there. No, absolutely not. I think
Jaguars. The reason why the Jaguars lose because Pittsburgh is their Achilles heel. They cannot play physical football. That defense in Pittsburgh would win at most of those games for Pittsburgh. Trust me. You're going to tell me that you think Trevor Lawrence is going to zip the ball all over the field against that Pittsburgh defense?
no, I don't think that at all. I just think that the Jacksonville Jaguars offense is a million miles better than the Pittsburgh Steelers offense,
Mm-hmm.
especially if they bring in Aaron Rodgers, which is I'm riding on that assumption right now. I just think that Aaron Rodgers is a dumpster fire. He's going to turn the ball over all over the place. And I mean, I have Jacksonville up like 1 or 2 more spots than I do the Steelers because I agree with you that I don't think Jacksonville is going to be very good either. I just think they're better than Pittsburgh.
Well, here's
I
the
don't know.
thing. Oh, go ahead, Sean.
You have the stats pulled up. What was Jacksonville's record the year before last? So 2 years ago.
They just missed the playoffs. They were like 9-8.
So they had a much better season than last year. I think last year was a combination of injuries and just
That coach who
poor
needed
coaching
the
decisions.
coach that clearly needed to go. Jacksonville, I believe, now correct me if I'm wrong, but Jacksonville also has a brand new coach as well in Liam Cohen. So I think that just for me that just puts them over the hump especially over Pittsburgh.
Okay,
And
let me ask you this. Let me ask you this question: Who went to the playoffs that year?
Houston,
You said Jacksonville? Pittsburgh did.
Yeah,
Houston,
because Pittsburgh every year finds a way to squeak in by the hair of Mike Tomlin's ass.
Doesn't matter. They make it.
doesn't matter. Doesn't I know, but again, to your point earlier, we are talking about power rankings. Which team is the better team going into the
Right now.
season? Jacksonville's the better team.
But let me ask you this: but what grounds? What are you comparing though? Is it
The roster overall, the coaching,
Coaching.
everything about the team. You can't take into their historical data at all because Pittsburgh is
you got to give some points to the teams that make the playoffs. You can't just deny.
I do agree with that. I do, but when you're squeaking in and immediately getting blown out in the first round,
that's also true.
What does that matter?
Yeah, I mean Pittsburgh has been the 7th seed 2 or 3 years in a row, and they've gotten blown out.
It's like
they got blew out by Baltimore last year. They got blew out by the Chiefs before that.
That doesn't make it to the playoffs.
Yeah, but the thing is, some of these teams that made it would have been a better game for either one of these.
They didn't, though. That's what counts. We can't deny it. You guys deny the fact. How do you take it, regardless of how we feel personally against Pittsburgh, they make it almost every year to the playoffs. Regardless of how we feel about their organization, regardless of how we feel about their quarterbacks, they make it. Jacksonville supposedly has a generational quarterback.
I don't think we're gonna get past this one here.
You're telling me you think Lawrence, who was supposed to be a generational quarterback, has not been to the playoffs in 3 straight seasons.
He's better than Aaron Rodgers.
Yes.
He's better than Aaron Rodgers.
Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson had a much better year there than he did when he was in Denver.
No, he did not. He was horrible.
The thing is, but no. So wait. So what got Pittsburgh to the playoffs? The defense, right? That defense is 1 year older. 1 year older. They lost a couple of players. I don't see it. I just don't see it. I'm so skeptical with Pittsburgh, especially if Rodgers goes there.
But he's not there. So my point is, as of right now.
But then who's their quarterback?
Mason Rudolph?
No, Mason Rudolph is in Tennessee.
But are we going to judge this based off if you make it to the Super Bowl? Or are we going to judge based off of
our rankings before the season starts?
Yeah. So where we think
you're telling me Pittsburgh got worse?
Yes.
Based off of never having a quarterback to begin with.
Yes, Pittsburgh got worse. Pittsburgh absolutely got worse. Their defense got a year older. They have who's playing quarterback for Pittsburgh right now? Do you even know?
But it doesn't matter for them. They make it to the playoffs without a quarterback.
Eventually, you're not going to.
They're not going to make the playoffs this year.
3 years in a row.
They're not going to make the play. I promise you, they're not going to make the playoffs this year.
You said this last year.
No, we didn't, because they kept squeaking out wins last year by the
No. I'm talking about before the season started, when they had Russell Wilson and Fields. We said it last year. There's no way they're making the playoffs.
But we're also the same people who said the Bills were going to suck because they're in a rebuilding year.
I never said that.
I did.
A lot of us did.
All right. So what are we gonna do here, guys? We have to move on. So what are we doing?
I have an idea. How about we put the Colts here?
I mean, I have the Colts at 12. So
hey, listen, I can't change your guys' mind. If it's 2 against 1, we'll go with majority rules.
All right, fine. Pittsburgh at 13. Colts at, I'll put an asterisk next to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Colts at 12. Colts at
See, I
12
feel
because
like
right
I like
now
it.
Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones. Enough said. Daniel
Yep.
Jones.
Daniel Jones,
Because
your
Anthony,
hero.
Anthony Richardson likely will not play the whole season because he's awful and he will likely get hurt, which means Daniel Jones will go in. Daniel Jones is one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. And the starting caliber defense for the Colts is awful. And one of the things about the Colts specifically, also as well, the Colts were in a situation last year with a couple of games left where all they needed to do was win out and beat some of the worst teams in the league. And they got blown out by, what was it, Tennessee? I think it was
Yep.
Tennessee that blew them out when all they needed to do was win two of their last three games. And they got blown out by Tennessee, by a team that didn't need anything. The team that was playing for the bus and they were playing to get a spot in the playoffs. And Indianapolis was just like, no, we don't care. We're gonna be terrible. So yeah, nope, absolutely not. Plus they fired their didn't they also fire their quarterbacks coach and their general manager Shane Steichen and Chris
Yeah.
Ballard as well? Yeah, no one knows what's going on in this in the front office there. The Colts are a mess, and their owner is perhaps one of the worst owners in the league, in Jim Irsay.
That's the key point right there. Until Jim Irsay no longer owns the Colts will never be a good team. He doesn't matter who you get there. You have the bad culture of Anthony Richardson, who I believe was the QB who tapped himself out of a game, correct?
He did.
Mhm.
Like, what first off, what kind of culture is that? Secondly, I mean, Daniel Jones is obviously the second coming of Nathan Peterman, so I'm all for that. Um, but is Jonathan Thomas still there?
Yeah, Jonathan. No, Jonathan Taylor. Taylor.
Taylor, sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, he's about the lone bright spot for that team. And he doesn't even really want to be there, if I recall correctly. So I think, I mean,
Well,
I feel like,
he got hurt too for a little bit a little
yeah,
bit last year as well too.
I feel like several of these teams right here in the middle of the pack are interchangeable just because of how bad they all are. But I think that the Colts are always going to be a perennial, just not quite good enough team.
I'll tell you what. I'm gonna make a concession to Reese. How about we move the Steelers above the Colts?
Hey, my suggestion.
All right. Go ahead. I'll agree to that.
All right, we'll put the Steelers at 12 and we'll put the Colts at 13.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Okay. So then at number 11, Jacksonville. For all the
Like
reasons
I said,
that we mentioned previously. I still think they're better than all of the teams below them, but I still don't think they're very good. I love that kid that they drafted number 2 overall in Hunter. I think Brian Thomas Jr. is going to be really, really good for them. And I think getting a brand new coach who's not a lunatic, I think will be huge for them.
Yeah. I mean, anywhere you put them in the bottom, I was going to agree with. That's why I said all the way to the bottom.
Oh yeah, I am not saying that they're any good, nor do I think they're going to make the playoffs. I just think that they're better than all of the teams below them.
Yeah.
That's it.
so I think that the London Jaguars
That too.
definitely fit in right there in, like I said, this interchangeable block of teams that just are never good enough. Like they can have, it seems like they can always have all the talent in the world, yet they're just not good. We can even say back to Pittsburgh real quick. We can even say it with them, like with Metcalf, signing Metcalf at receiver. You have these great talents, but what are you going to do if you don't have someone who can throw the ball? Or you have Trevor Lawrence, who's his going to be his number one receiver this year?
Brian Thomas Jr.
And where did he come from?
Washington.
Okay, so is he? I'm not very familiar with him in particular,
He's
but
Brian Thomas Jr. is excellent. He's very
I was
good.
just saying, is he going to give them? Is he a legitimate number one threat?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. He's very good.
So I mean, maybe that will help Jacksonville because prior to this, who was their number one receiver? The kid that used to play in Buffalo here.
Yeah, it was Gabe Davis, and who was the
Yeah,
other guy? The guy who they gave a ton of money to, who got hurt. Um,
And,
you know who was it? What's his face, Reese?
he's from
Uh,
he played in Atlanta, right?
Who was their wide receiver? I don't remember. Uh, no, no.
Hang on, I'm bringing it around.
I really can't. Whoever it is not there anymore. Gabe Davis was their number one. They brought somebody in who they paid a ton of money to, and I just can't remember for the life of me who it was.
And Etienne is there too, right?
Yeah, Travis Etienne, Evan Ingram. No, he's a running back, right?
He's
No,
Yeah.
a tight he's a
No,
tight
Mark
end.
Ingram.
he's a tight end. Yeah, yeah, Evan Ingram's a tight end.
Yeah, Gabe
Um,
is still there.
Yeah, they paid Gabe Davis a lot of money to go there.
uh, Travis Hunt. Yeah, I don't remember who was there last time. There was somebody there that they paid a bunch of money to, but I can't remember for the life of me who it was. Regardless, though. So yeah, I have them at 11, and I just don't think they're going to be very good. So we
No, I agree.
Yeah, I concur.
okay. So this next team is the last team that I will say is quote bad. And then
Hmm.
after this, I think is the next grouping of teams we'll talk about in a second. But I am going to go at number 10, the Raiders. And the reason I have the Raiders there is because I think the Raiders with Geno Smith gives them a little bit of stability. Yes, Geno Smith is a turnover machine, but Geno Smith had a career year in Seattle last year, and I think the weapons that he's going to now are fantastic. Ashton Genty is awesome. Jacoby Myers is awesome. Brock Bowers is awesome. And I mean, the Raiders defense is a dumpster fire, but I think that they got a lot of weapons, and I think Geno Smith is going to throw the ball all over the yard. It's probably going to have like 40 touchdowns and like 40 picks.
Hmm.
I think that the Raiders bringing in Pete Carroll as head coach is going to be huge for them. And I think with them drafting Ashton Jeanty, and I think you're going to see it a real similar approach as you did with the Marshawn Lynch led Seattle Seahawks. I think they're gonna run Jeanty hard and often, and I think that's what you're gonna see as the identity for this team. So I think I agree with you on where you place this. They're not. I wouldn't quite call them a bad team, but I also wouldn't call them a good team. They sort of fall in that no man's land where I think they are improving. Uh, I like your placement though.
That's why I have them at 10. What do you think, Reese?
I'm having a difficult choice here.
Okay.
I'm a little torn. What if I were to say the Dolphins?
It's funny that you mentioned that, not to spoil anything, but I have the Dolphins at 9.
Oh,
So,
close, right?
yeah, I have the Dolphins right above them just because I think the Dolphins have just been a bit more successful than them. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that like I, it's tough for me, but I think Tua is probably a little bit better than Geno Smith. And
So
I think the Dolphins defense is a million times better than the Raiders defense.
But that's the problem that I was just about to bring up to what Terrence said. The Dolphins' defense this year is decimated. They've
They just
lost
they,
so many.
they just
They've lost
drafted they
so many
drafted a ton
people.
of people. They drafted a ton of people though.
They did, but those are all. You're coming in with a defense that's going to be filled with a bunch of young no names. Like I, I don't really know what to expect out of that, and especially coming from somebody that's in the same division as our Bills. I think that I don't know. I think that Terrence could be right, and the Dolphins could be slotted into that same spot just for that exact reason. If I had to come up with a reason, plus the Dolphins season hinges on Tua and whether his brain falls out of his head. So he looks at a linebacker wrong, and he'll have a concussion.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I'm very easily convinced here. So Dolphins at 10, Raiders at 9?
Yeah.
I can get
Okay.
behind that.
Okay.
And my reason may be a little different than yours, Sean. Mine is primarily they lost their entire defense this offseason.
That's what I mean.
Literally. the entire defense was let go, including the defensive coaching staff. So I don't know what their plan is on defense. They drafted they drafted some defensive players this year, but it's not enough to fill that roster. And I mean, as far as where they stand in AFC, they're not going to have very good selection of players to come there. They're going to get the leftovers of the players in the summer that needed to be signed somewhere. That's going to be the last place. I mean, if nobody else can sign anywhere else, they'll go to Miami. And that's the problem they're going to run into.
Yeah.
I think
Miami does they tend to splash a lot in free agency as well. So I could see Miami bringing in a couple of players as well. I don't know what will end up happening with that, but
they're still trying to trade Jalen Ramsey right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's two other things to consider too, besides the trying to trade Jalen Ramsey. The fact that Cheetah doesn't really want to be there.
I mean, wide receiver. If they don't make the playoffs, he's going to probably request out.
He's already basically been implying that he doesn't want to be there. And I don't think that the Dolphins are ever going to be able to take that full correct step in the right direction until Coach Douchebag is gone from there. And Mike McDaniel is let go. Because I think he's part of the problem there. He has no spine, and you can tell that those players walk all over him down there, and it creates a terrible culture for something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Dolphins are going to Dolphins.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, we see it. I'm fine with that then. I'm fine with putting the Raiders ahead of the Dolphins then, because you're probably right. I think the Raiders offense is going to be real good. It just really depends on what the Raiders defense is going to look like. I mean, on paper, it's pretty bad, but I just think that the Raiders offense is good. I think the Raiders are going to be a fun watch. Like, I actually am going to look forward to watching the Raiders play this year. I'm never interested in the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins are just not an enjoyable team to watch, but I think the Raiders are going to be exciting this year.
Yeah, I agree. I'm more curious about the Raiders, how they're going to look. I just want to see how they look.
Mm-hmm.
And the Dolphins, we already know how they look. They got 3 players.
Okay.
I mean, with the Dolphins, the thing to watch with the Dolphins is whether or not someone's going to murder Tua.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Raiders at 9, Dolphins at 10. All right. So these next 2 teams to me are interchangeable at 7 and 8. One of these teams is going to make the playoffs. The other one is not. So right now at number 8, I have the Patriots. And at number 7, I have the Chargers. I have the Patriots on the outside because, well, we don't know what we're going to get out of the new coach. I think that Drake May is good. I think they added a ton of help. They drafted offensive line a lot. They brought in a lot of wide receivers. And I think that defense was talented. So I definitely put them ahead of all the teams below them. But the Chargers are proven. You have another year of Harbaugh. I am not a Justin Herbert guy at all. I like the Mekhi Becton bring in. I like the Omario Hampton bring in. I think it'll help them in the run game a lot. But I just don't love the Chargers, and the Chargers kind of always find a way to shit the bed. So if I had to pick, gun to my head right now, which one of these 2 teams would get the number 7 seed, I would probably say the Patriots would squeak out the Chargers. But I'm open to be convinced.
Okay, so Dolphins, Raiders.
Right now, Patriots at 8, Chargers at 7, but I'm open to change my mind.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, okay, I agree. I think they're interchangeable.
I do too.
Now, for the Patriots, it's more or less there's too much mystery going on with their team. I don't even know how their team's going to playing out. But within our division, they could very well be number 2.
Yeah, easily number 2.
So I just don't know. I got to see what they look like. I think there's a lot of mystery to them. The Chargers are going to be the Chargers. Now, the reason why I agree with this is because Jim Harbaugh generally is a winner everywhere he goes. But or yeah, but the issue with him is he plays old school football
Mhm.
and it doesn't really work in this today's NFL. Like last year, it worked for him. You know, they squeaked in, but you got another year of people seeing how you're going to run your team now, what you're
Yeah.
going to try and specialize in. And I think that they're going to have a harder time winning games this year because of the old school style of football. I mean, Herbert, he's above average quarterback,
Yeah.
but they're showing why he didn't go number one overall. He doesn't have a killer instinct. And right now, he doesn't have a receiver core to even help him have that killer instinct this year. So I don't know. I just don't think that he is really all that impressive. So I can go Patriots just because of the quarterback situation. That one I would go with the quarterback situation. I think that Herbert obviously is better than May at this point. So I would agree with that. That's the tiebreaker for me.
Sean?
At what point is Herbert deemed that he's never going to be an actual success? Do we just keep blaming it on the fact that he doesn't really have anybody to throw to, or is it just do we deem him a failure at some point and he needs to move to a different team?
He's had plenty to throw to. He's had Keenan Allen there. He's had
Yeah, Keenan Allen was so injury prone though.
he was still winning. I mean,
I think
regardless.
I think that's my point though, is he's had the people there. What do we blame Justin Herbert's lack of success on?
Coaching.
Coaching and the fact he doesn't have a killer instinct.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely on the killer instinct thing. And I think one of the things with Harbaugh, and I was going to say this as well, uh, if you take out that playoff game, which was insanity, what happened in that playoff game, the fact that he had four turnovers in that playoff game, the Chargers had like four interceptions all year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, Herbert led the league in the least amount of picks. So that's coaching because before that, he was throwing the ball all over the field and getting picked off all the time. So coaching, before that, when he had that off, was it Staley? Brandon Staley, right? Was their coach before that guy who, regardless of where they were on the field, would go for it on fourth down all of the
Yeah.
time? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
no. No, absolutely not with a quarterback who doesn't, to your point, Reese, have that killer instinct. Can you do something like that? You don't have the team to do something like that. You don't have Josh Allen, you don't have Lamar Jackson. You can't be doing that. So, but to your point, I think if you want to go straight quarterback, Justin Herbert's a better quarterback than Drake May.
Yep.
I think that New England though is has the better, I think, overall outlook as far as the direction they're heading. I really like everything that they've done so far since bringing. I mean, starting with bringing Vrabel in as the head coach. They should have done that last year. It was brought somebody in of his caliber and not gone the route they did with
Mayo.
what the hell was his name?
Mayo.
Yeah, with Mayo, somebody with zero coaching experience and who was basically just a look at what we did hire, and that obviously hurt that team. And I mean, to the point that at the end of the season last year, even when he knew that winning the game would hurt their draft pick, he chose to go out and win the game because he was petty and he knew he was gone. So I think bringing Vrabel in is obviously it's going to change the way that that team runs. It'll never run the same way it did as when Belichick was there. Obviously, nobody is going to be that caliber again. But between what they drafted and I agree with Mike, I like Drake May. I think he has a lot of potential. And I think that as of right now, I would say the Patriots, but very close soon, I think they would overtake the Chargers.
Okay. All right, so we're in agreement then. Patriots at 8, Chargers at 7. Okay.
Sure.
I think given the teams that are in the top 6 and 5 might be tough. I mean, it seems like the top four are probably going to be very clear here in a moment. But I think given that this team's recent success and they very seemingly are on an upward trajectory. Number 6, I have the Denver Broncos.
Hmm.
I think that they're on an upward trajectory. I think Bo Nix was the biggest surprise of last year. And their defense, and I think Vance Joseph did a hell of a job. I think that their defense looked fantastic. I like Sean Payton, And I think that he's the perfect coach for that quarterback. And I could absolutely see them making the playoffs and maybe even winning a playoff game.
I actually had the Broncos at 5 myself, but I think that you want to talk about teams headed in the right direction. The Broncos are that team. Everything that they have going on there, the coaching, and I've never been a real big Sean Payton fan. I didn't really like the crap he pulled when he was down in New Orleans, but I think that the system that he runs is perfect for a quarterback of the style of Bo Nix, and I sooner rather than later could see Denver overtaking Kansas City in that division. Might be another couple years, but I think it's coming.
I would be all about that.
What if I were to say there's a different team?
Houston?
That would not surprise me in the least.
Houston?
Cincinnati.
Cincinnati,
No.
I
Nope.
think they're higher.
Sorry.
I think Cincinnati is better than Houston, and I think they're better than Denver.
So I agree.
Who's made the playoffs?
Doesn't matter. Cincinnati got so unlucky last year, and their defense was historically bad last year.
And
Joe
they still almost made it.
Joe Burrow, if Joe Burrow's defense was slightly better, Joe Burrow could have been the MVP last year.
Joe Burrow put up MVP quality numbers on a team that literally could not stay in games because they had a JV defense on the field.
And they got
That team wins one more game last year. They're in the playoffs, and they are a force to be reckoned with, I think, in the playoffs.
I think they could have beat the Bills.
So
If they got the Bills in round one, I think they could have beat the Bills.
not with that defense.
With that offense, they could.
And with that offense, they could. The Bills defense, I mean, was
Bills
not.
defense got at least one stop in that game.
I mean, maybe
I don't know. They couldn't stop the
the
Rams.
Did the Bills get one stop against the Rams or the Lions? I mean, I think that the Bengals defense is better than the Rams.
Yeah, but I still believe in the playoffs that defense would have got at least one stop.
I don't
The,
know. I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, you look at the way they played against Kansas City and look at the way they played against Baltimore, especially that second half against Baltimore. They were horrendous.
But
that
playing,
receipt.
but playing against NFC teams is always different.
Another AFC teams, Cincinnati and
No, no,
Baltimore.
no, no. The games you mentioned was the Rams game and the
Oh, the Bills.
Oh, yeah.
do not forget the Bills the defense shut out the Lions almost that whole first half. So they were getting their stops. They were playing catch up for the whole game.
Right, but the Bills cannot beat the Bengals, and the Bills seemingly cannot beat the Chiefs either.
No,
I think the fact that
but listen, we're not comparing them to the Bills. This is just a power ranking. So
right.
if you compare them to somebody, they did not make the playoffs.
You think that the Bengals are a better? You think that the Broncos are a better team than the Bengals?
All around team, absolutely.
So
You're going to tell me Broncos had one of the top defenses last year.
I can get behind that.
That's the difference.
So the fact that if Kansas City plays their starters that last game of the season, Cincinnati's in the playoffs. I think that the argument of they didn't make the playoffs, if there was ever a case where it really shouldn't be a, a major factor, is when it comes to Cincinnati. Like Mike said, Cincinnati had the bad luck of getting hosed against Kansas City. They had the bad luck of actually Kansas City screwed them twice last year. Once with the refs, and the second by sitting their people in that last game.
So you're telling me Kansas City, who's lucky every year, we should not acknowledge any of their Super Bowls?
No,
luck is definitely part of it, but
I think you know what? Here's what I'm willing to do. Here's the concession I'm willing to make. I'm willing to say that instead of putting Denver at 6, I will move Houston to 6 because I don't know. I think Houston has gotten worse. We have no idea what's going to happen with Tank Dell. I don't believe in CJ Stroud at all. They lost Stephon Diggs. I don't believe in their defense one bit. I'm willing to move Denver ahead of Houston, but I think Cincinnati's better than both of them.
Houston did draft a couple of wide receivers, so it'll be interesting to see if they can take the place of Diggs and Dell potentially.
I
A
mean,
lot, a
I
lot of
mean, Nico Collins is real good, but I mean,
yeah.
we can. I'm welcome. I'm willing to flip Denver, Houston, and Cincinnati in any order you guys want to put them in. But I think that all three of them are playoff teams. I mean, Houston
My
obviously, but I mean, I think that they're all playoff teams.
my point with Houston, though, I mean, they're going to win that division regardless. That
Sure.
division is
Yeah,
not great,
and that's why they're in the
and
top. That's why they're in the top six because
um,
they're gonna win 10 games.
but when you say Nico Collins is great, if they don't have somebody who can help take coverage off of him, it's not going to matter how great he is. If he's if they can focus, the opposing teams can focus their defensive backs on Collins, that team is becomes incredibly one dimensional.
I don't know if that
And
I don't know if that matters that much. I mean, like look at look at with what's his face in Philadelphia. He AJ Brown. He got open regardless of who was covering him, and it was
yeah,
Jalen
but
Hurts throwing the ball.
AJ Brown had Saquon Barkley coming out of the backfield, who was a receiving threat as well as a rushing threat. So
True.
that automatically takes somebody on a spy on him. That's kind of a hard comparison to make.
All right, fair. All right, so what are we doing here? What are we doing here?
I'm just taking a
I'm
quick
fine.
look at their wide receivers.
I think they drafted two receivers, and then a lot of it, like I said, is going to hinge on uh, Dell if how bad his knee injury ends up being, if he's able to even make it back, because that was horrific, that knee injury.
Cincinnati did also draft defense a lot.
Yep, and
Like,
they have that two wide receivers.
and they got everything like they got all three of their guys paid. Burrow is paid, Chase is paid, Higgins is paid. Like those guys, there's no more drama with it. Are any of those guys going to leave? They're all there and they're all under contract.
Who's Cincinnati's running back?
That other guy who's fantastic, Chase Brown.
Yeah.
He was
Well,
real good too.
yeah.
Cincinnati's offense could be one of the best offenses in the league.
Oh no, I'm
If
not arguing that at all. But their problem again is that they're going to have an entire rookie defense out there with a whole new defensive coordinator, aren't they not?
I mean, it can't be any worse than it was.
I'm saying they got a whole new defensive coordinator. It's going to be a whole new defense. That whole defense has to get turned over, and that does not happen in the first year. They struggle until the end of the season when you put a new philosophy in. So let's not forget that they're going to have a whole new defensive staff there. So this ain't going to be the same defense regardless. So
Okay.
they're going to struggle regardless of who, and especially with a bunch of rookies. They're going to struggle.
Okay. So if Houston and Denver play 10 times, what do we get? How many wins each?
I would go 6-4 Houston
So
over Denver.
you say 50-50? I think Denver would win more games. I think Denver would win 6 or 7 games, and I think Houston would win 3 or 4.
Yeah, I can't argue that.
Okay. Now, if Cincinnati and Houston played,
Cincinnati 6-4.
I think it would depend on who's home. So I think it
neutral site.
Yeah, I think Cincinnati wins 60%.
I would because both teams don't have a defense, and if you're going to go with a team with the better offense, it would have to go with Cincinnati.
Okay, so with by this logic, then we've agreed that Houston is 6. Okay, so now it's between Cincinnati and Denver. So Cincinnati and Denver 10 times.
See, I think Cincinnati personally, but
With the present day Cincinnati, right? Am I right?
Present day Cincinnati with all the upgrades on defense, the new contracts for all of their players on offense, and just how elite their offense was last year. Denver's defense is lights out, but it is Bo Nix. And I mean, can you name anybody else on that offense? I think putting Denver at 4 is insanity.
yeah, no, Denver has to be 5.
Denver is the fourth best team in the AFC? No way.
Well, okay. I would concede that.
I'm glad I could convince you.
Well, I mean, the only reason I'm saying that is because here's my logic. There's a there's a difference from Cincinnati playing in Cincinnati and playing in the middle of Denver. And if you're a high-powered offense, it's a tough place to play, especially if you have no defense.
True.
So I'm going to say that based off of that, and half the games are going to be decided by where they're playing. I think Denver pulls out one more game than Cincinnati.
So if they were to play,
I think Denver can go to Cincinnati and beat them there rather than Cincinnati going to Denver and beating them there.
who wins more games in the regular season?
Denver.
In that division?
Yes.
Cincinnati's division is hard.
Cincinnati's got Cleveland and Pittsburgh in their division.
Pittsburgh, those division games are always weird in that division.
They split almost every year they split.
The AFC North is a weird division when they play each other.
All right.
Cincinnati currently has not dominated that division yet.
Okay, fine. Which one of those two teams could beat any one of the three teams ahead of them?
Cincinnati.
Which one of these teams then could Denver beat Kansas City, Buffalo, or Baltimore?
Sure.
No.
Cincinnati?
No, Denver. Could Denver?
Oh, Denver. Oh, I thought you said Cincinnati.
Could Denver beat Kansas City, Buffalo, or Baltimore? No.
Mm-mm.
Nope. Could Cincinnati beat any one of those teams? I think Cincinnati could beat all three of them.
Yeah. I mean, Cincinnati has beat all three of them.
Cincinnati has beaten all three of them.
I'm sorry, but there's only one team of those three teams they always beat, and that's us. They can't bear. They split on the other.
They've beaten Kansas City in the playoffs though.
Yeah, they've beaten Kansas City a couple times.
They've only played them twice.
No, they played Kansas City once in the playoffs. That was that year they went.
And it's the year Cincinnati went to the Super Bowl.
Right.
So Cincinnati has beaten the Chiefs in the playoffs, and they've beaten the Bills in the playoffs.
They should have beaten them in the regular season too.
But then I ask you, when was the last time they were in the playoffs?
2 years ago.
2 years ago? Yeah.
I don't care if they can beat me during the season, but if you can't even make it to the dance, it shouldn't matter. See, we gotta you gotta give some sort of credit for making the playoffs. I don't understand how we're not giving any credit, regardless.
And if Kansas City doesn't sit their people, then Cincinnati makes the goddamn playoffs.
But did they do it?
Did Kansas City rest their people?
Oh, Sean, did they do it?
No, because like I said,
woulda, coulda, shoulda, doesn't matter.
We need to come up with some kind of tiebreaker here.
Woulda, coulda, shoulda, never matter.
We need to
Cincinnati is better than Denver.
We need to come up with some kind of tiebreaker here. And Reese, I really fundamentally don't think that you as a Bills fan are more afraid of the Denver Broncos than you are of the Cincinnati Bengals. If you're telling me that otherwise, you're lying to me. The Bills curb stomped the Broncos in the playoffs. Curb stomped. The Broncos look like a JV team.
Listen, you're only comparing them against us, not the league.
No. I'm comparing them. Stop. We're doing power rankings. We are ranking them of the teams that are ahead of them. So we agree that they are better than all of the teams behind them. But we cannot say Denver can go and beat Kansas City, Buffalo, or Baltimore. But Cincinnati can. So by default, I think it makes Cincinnati better.
Yeah.
But you're going off of past.
No. I'm saying right now.
Listen.
Right now.
They went 9-8 last year, right?
You were not listening.
I don't care what kind of luck any team has had. And the year before, hang on, let me see what we got here. The year before, 9-8 again. Let's see. I mean, what more do we got to say? Denver Broncos, that year before went 8-9. They improved to 10-7. I mean, what do you want to do?
Okay, fine.
You realize you were such a fan of horse dick, T.
Huh?
So I didn't realize you were such a fan of horse dick.
Well, Sean, that's usually what people politically, when they can't argue, start calling
Oh
names.
my God, you guys are
I
ridiculous.
brought up my arguments, and you
All right,
refuse
guys,
to listen.
you guys are
You keep
ridiculous.
all you keep immediately saying is, "Oh well,
Guys,
everyone's
this is becoming a bad podcast.
Now, this is the kind of content people want. They want to see Terrence and I going at it.
The bottom line is this. This is power rankings for this year. Yes, you can take historical data into effect, but which team of those two teams is going to be better this year?
Yeah,
Like
Denver's.
I said,
You think Denver's going to be better than Cincinnati?
I think Denver makes the playoffs again. I don't think Cincinnati makes it this year again.
see. I don't see that. I think Cincinnati does, and I think Cincinnati is going to be in contention for that division.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We are going to put a star next to both of them, and we are going to say that we cannot come to an agreement.
Hey, listen, whoever's watching this, all you viewers out there, break this tie. Break it.
Break the tie.
Yes,
That's right, guys. So in the comments below, break the tie. Let us know how you feel, what you think. If you think Reese is crazy or if you think Sean is crazy, let us know. I'm leaning towards Cincinnati being better personally myself, but I mean, Reese, you present a very compelling argument. So
I know that all my loyal viewers are going to tell Terrence why he's wrong, and why I'm obviously right. That
all right,
it's just the way it is.
All right. So number 3, Kansas City.
I agree. I'm curious. I'm legit curious what your argument here is going to be.
Oh, he's gonna have number 1.
When he just argued about them being lucky and everything, I'm curious what his argument here is going to be.
I didn't say they were lucky. What I said was because they're lucky does not mean their wins don't count. I mean, the Bills are pretty lucky this year too. Are we just going to say they weren't that good?
I have Kansas City at 3. Where do you have them?
So do I.
Do you think that they're better than Buffalo or Baltimore going into the season?
Baltimore's number 3.
No.
Really?
Yep.
Oh.
Why?
They haven't got anything done. Lamar still chokes in the playoffs. Every single chance he gets. Every chance he gets.
You think that you think that Kansas City on paper is a better roster than Baltimore? Because I don't.
It's not about the roster. It's about who beats who. Baltimore rarely ever beats KC, just like we rarely ever beat KC. Let's not forget that. So if you're going to tell me based off of who beats the Bills, who beats the Bills more?
Regular season Baltimore.
I just took your argument and reversed it on you.
Regular season Baltimore beats the Bills.
I'm really struggling with this because I feel like the Chiefs roster is old, right? And I think that
they got one of the youngest rosters in the league.
Well, and what's his face is gone.
They lost offensive line.
Joe Thuney's gone.
Mm-hmm.
They have 3 new people on the offensive line. Travis Kelce looks like a shell of himself, right? This has got to be Travis Kelce's last year. They lost Justin Reed. The Chiefs lost a lot of players, and they all they did was bring in draft rookies on the defense. I mean, you could say the same thing about the Bills, but I think the Bills are a better roster than the Chiefs, and I think if they played 10 times in a neutral site, I think the Bills would win 6. So I think the Bills are better than the Chiefs. But I don't know if I agree with it.
I put Kansas City at 3 because of all the offensive line people they lost. That is going to hurt Mahomes badly.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm.
You know,
you guys done? I want you guys to just marinate that a little bit more. Think about what you just said.
I'm done. So I need you to change my mind.
Haven't we had this same discussion every year with Kansas City? Their offense is this, they lost this, they had a whole turnover in their entire defense and still went to the Super Bowl and won. So, again, I refuse to ever pull the Brady and Patriots things that I pulled for years against them. I give them all the credit in the world. There's no way you cannot say they're the number one team, regardless of how they won, regardless of what they lost, because it's on watch and repeat with them every year.
So
They
my
win.
issue
No
is
matter what, it doesn't matter. They win.
He does have a point though, and like to all of our viewers out there, and obviously we're biased Bills fans here, but I mean Kansas City does get away with everything, and that you know what, say what you want, Sean, he has a point. That
he
has
does.
that has to account for something that Kansas City gets away with everything. So I can concede that Baltimore could be number three. I do believe that Baltimore and Buffalo are closer together, but I think that I can get behind that because I think that the league and the way the Chiefs are favored, I can get behind that.
My issue is yes, they get away with everything. Yes, they somehow find get ways to get lucky. This is the first year I think where we're seeing the the amount of people that protect Mahomes having to be replaced. And I think protecting Mahomes is the linchpin to that team's success. Mahomes goes down, much like the Bills. Mahomes goes down, and that team is not itself. And I think that losing that many people is hurts them badly, in my opinion.
But it's not their first time. I mean, we've said this every
They
time, every year.
it is though for losing the offensive line like that.
No, but we say it over and over again, and then they just come right back and win again.
But
My point is,
you also said
if you're a true winner, that no matter what happens,
you
no matter
this coming from the same guy though, who was arguing about the Steelers 20 minutes ago, talking about luck. And you even made the comment that the Chiefs got lucky a lot last year. Missed a blocked field goal. I mean,
that's what we're making right now.
But you know what though?
Win.
You have two blocked field goals and a coach who doesn't know how to run the football at first and goal on the one. And if any of the or the Bengals making a catch or not getting a penalty, Baltimore making a catch, you could easily have tacked on five losses to the Chiefs last year, and they would have been a wild card team.
Okay.
Yes,
but did that happen?
They weren't. They weren't. But you were arguing luck about the Steelers.
Yes.
You were arguing luck about the Steelers. So I'm arguing the luck in reverse. If you take half of those games and flip them the other way, then the Chiefs are a wild card team.
But at some point, luck runs out.
That's exactly my point. If, regardless of luck, they still win. So either they're lucky or they're not lucky. They lose players, they gain players. Some player gets arrested and goes to jail for 1,000,000 years. They still win the Super Bowl. They still
power rankings based on their current roster. I have Baltimore ahead of Kansas City.
And you're only doing that out of hate. You're only doing that. That means you're not giving any respect to a team that just went to the Super Bowl.
So you think that on paper the Ravens and the Chiefs are a better roster than the Ravens?
The Ravens didn't lose the amount of people that the Chiefs did.
On paper, who's the better roster, Baltimore or Kansas City?
Baltimore.
You obviously go with Baltimore because of the popularity of their players, but they still lose. Kansas City.
That's not what we're basing it on, though.
Do me a favor, both of you. Name 5 players on Kansas City's defense last year.
What's his face? Willie Snead. Chris Jones. That's the only guys I can think of off the top of my head.
I also couldn't name anybody off Baltimore's defense. So,
do you know Kansas City had the number 1 defense without you not knowing much of their defense?
Yeah, their defense was great. Their defense was excellent.
Name their top 5. Name their 5 receiving core.
Kansas City also had a really soft schedule last year as well. There's something to be said. No, there's something to be said for that. They played a lot of the bottom teams last year. They did.
Bro, they did the same thing about the Bills 2 seasons ago. Did you argue the fact? Did you say that wasn't true?
The Bills won 14 games two seasons ago.
They were saying the Bills had a soft roster.
No,
Yeah, no,
schedule.
no,
Schedule.
you
No.
take advantage of the schedule that's given to you.
The Bills
That's
did.
my point. You're making my argument, Sean. It doesn't matter. You only play the
I
games.
wasn't arguing that. That was not my argument.
You can only play the games you're given. I don't care who it is.
I don't think we can upload this podcast.
Why? This is what people like.
Oh my
My
God.
point is overall on paper, just due to off-season moves, I think that Baltimore on paper has the better team. It may end up being wrong during the season, but on paper, that's what it looks like. Not taking in history, not taking in who was just in the playoffs, nothing. Who was up for MVP? Was Patrick Mahomes up there this year?
No.
So one way or another.
The Super Bowl.
And who got decimated in the Super Bowl?
You're giving me, Sean. You understand? The more you're saying, the more you're winning my argument.
I am not winning your argument for you. You are so full of shit that you are.
You guys are
just because Baltimore can't figure out how to not choke in the playoffs doesn't mean that they're not a better team.
Okay.
Well, I mean,
Baltimore. If Lamar Jackson can figure out,
you had the bet on who will win a Super Bowl between Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. Where would you put your money on?
Yeah, I mean Patrick Mahomes.
I refuse to answer this question.
Thank you.
All right, fine. I you know what? I've been convinced. It's 2-1.
Bullshit.
Baltimore goes to 3. All right, so number 2 then. So we've I mean, it's kind of pointless at this point. So Chiefs or Bills?
Bills.
Chiefs or Bills? Chiefs or Bills?
At 2?
Bills.
Chiefs. But I'm biased, so.
I know. I'm trying not to be biased.
Yeah, it's probably the Bills just off of history.
Yeah.
And as much as I want the Bills at number 1.
They went to the Super Bowl and won. So I mean, you got to be number 1.
Okay. All right. All right, fine. Kansas City at 1, Buffalo at 2, Baltimore at 3, not decidable at 4 and 5. Houston at 6, Chargers at 7, Patriots at 8, Raiders at 9, Dolphins at 10, Jaguars at 11, Steelers at 12, Colts at 13, Jets at 14, Cleveland at 15, Tennessee at 16. Although we're going to also asterisk the Browns and the Titans as well, because I think
they're interchangeable.
They're interchangeably bad. All right.
Bad is bad.
All right. So you know what? I think we're going to have to do an NFC one, and hopefully we'll be a little bit more agreeable on our NFC one.
Yeah, that's what made it entertaining.
But that's our list, guys. So let us know if you agree or disagree. We're really looking to get your comments on this one because I think that we've had a lot of interesting dialogue on this one. And as always, look forward to our Monday Night Raw review. That's going to be coming out tomorrow. We'll also put out our NFC predictions as well this week. And we've got the schedule coming out, I believe, May 14th. So when that comes out, we're going to do a win-loss where we think the Bills are going to do. And we're going to look at all the other teams in the division. And we'll break down the schedule and give you guys where we think each one of the teams in the AFC and how they're going to do this year as well. So we'll have a video for you on each one of the AFC teams and what their schedule looks like in a win-loss. So we'll do one at a time, probably a couple on the Bills, though. So with that, I've been Mike with 716 Sports Entertainment. This is Mr. T. Reese and Mr. Sean O'Neill saying thank you guys so much. Hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll talk to you soon.